Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday study group. I'm Gretchen Berry, head of marketing here at Buddy INS. I'm taking over for Jason today, so watch out. The marketing team is on the roll here. With me is Joe Filipenko, our marketing communications specialist. And in a few minutes, he is going to walk us all through this whole AI thing, sort of an AI 101, and help us all get started and have it not be so daunting. But before we head on to that, I wanted to sort of pick Mark's brain. He and I have had many conversations about AI and how it might fit into Buddy's business. And so, Mark, give us sort of your vision for, I know that we're going to be adding AI tools like an AI search to the portal, and all of the teams within Buddy are kind of trying to figure this out. So give us your vision for
hmm
what you think AI is going to do for Buddy and maybe even the industry.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Thanks for having me on and happy to share my thoughts. So I would say the AI revolution started about 3 years ago with that chat GPT kind of awareness moment, and people realized that AI alone isn't the answer. So I'm a big believer in human in the loop, having AI do what it's strong at, which is this kind of like endless, infinite memory and reasoning abilities. But to the extent possible, when you can be the decision maker and you can be the relationship for your client, that is how you want to kind of use AI. So for us, that means building AI to start with as a virtual assistant. So think about all the administrative tasks that you do in your day to day. Where, as Jason would put it, where are your rocks and your shoes? Those are the ones to start with. So one place that we've gone that Gretchen, of course, you know about is each person on our, internal buddy team now has a Claude Cowork AI assistant that they use to help them with their day-to-day administrative tasks. And for each of that, it's different, right? For Jason, he's built an AI to help him find product information because you can't imagine how many different product questions he gets every day. And Gretchen, to your point, we built that AI search that's going to soon be in the portal. So you can actually go to the portal and ask the same questions, but Jason really built the engine on that. But like I said, human in the loop, right? You're reviewing those answers before you send them to a client. So you can, assess is the information accurate? Is it how you want to position it? I used that twice today, Jason, believe it or not, your new product assistant, because I got questions about out of the group carriers, which one has a service day versus a calendar day elimination period. And I was able to find that information, quote it to the document, the specimen contract where it found it, and I got that out back to the broker I was working with in just like less than 2 minutes from four different carriers. So you have to really think broadly about what are those things you do every day that, AI is much stronger at and just not be afraid to try it out. And I think that's where we've had a lot of success. But Gretchen, I mean, AI is very far reaching. We're using it in quite a few different areas. But I would say if I
LinkedIn?
had to recommend anything from a vision perspective, start off there. Instead of
Mhm.
hiring, an offshore virtual assistant, think about if you can use Claude Cowork or a different version like that to do that for you, because I think in the long run that scales more effectively and it will just get better and better and less
Yeah,
expensive over time.
yeah. And I'm using it to connect with people on LinkedIn. Yeah, there's different applications. Thanks, Mark. And Joe. So we're going to turn it over to Joe. And like I said, he's going to walk us through this sort of mystery thing, and we're all going to learn for sure. Even those of us who have been using it, I know I'm going to learn something from Joe because Joe's the one on the team really who's used it the most and who brought some of the AI tools to us. So, Joe, I'm going to let you take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much for asking me to do this session. And like Mark was saying, each of us has such a unique need, and you know, trying to figure out what that need is. My needs are different than Mark's or different than Gretchen's to a degree. And so I want to kind of just take a real big step back because it's easy to kind of show, oh, look at all these fancy workflows I can create that look super advanced and they're overcomplicated. And you're like, that's too much for me. Like, that looks too difficult. So I want to start at the super, super basics, teaching you guys how to build a foundation. And then hopefully that you'll see once we have this firm foundation that you guys can then take your own unique needs and implement kind of what we're going to build together and then plug in your own connections or different have conversations with the chat with Claude Chat or Chat GPT. We're going to primarily be focused on Claude today as that's what the buddy team is using, and I'll go into more reasons why we're using that. um, but just building those foundational pieces that you guys can then start to create your own things and make it work for you. So we're going to cover things from how to download it, where to get started, how to get the the tool set up with there's so many different settings and sites. We're going to go through each of those settings, talk a little bit about them, show you what you can and can't enable to make sure that it's working for you. We'll talk about the differences of using like Claude General Chat versus Cowork or the scary Claude Code, which we won't be talking about, but we'll briefly mention. But we will not be using any of that today. But just that way you guys know what that means. Then we'll start connecting some of the tools so that way Claude Cowork can start doing some work for you. And then we're going to build something together. So we're going to build a daily brief. So what it'll do is it's going to take a look at your calendar, take a look at your emails, and kind of give you an example of what your day looks like. So you can kind of look in and be like, oh my gosh, I double booked a meeting. Oh my, I better get out and cancel that or reach out and figure things out. Checking your emails as well. Like maybe you had a client respond and you need a response. So it kind of can flag those things or filter out all the newsletters that we get subscribed to. And then from that, we'll also go into kind of creating our own brand kit. So I know a thing that many of you may do is create newsletters that you may send out, or you creating one pagers or designs, you want to have it on brand with your logo, with your brand colors. So how we can build that. And then also, one of the things is creating a safe space on your desktop that only it will work in. So I know the big fear is like, oh my gosh, if I install this, it's going to have access to all my files, go rogue and download all my bank statements and start doing all kinds of things. So no, we're going to put it in a safe bubble that Claude only has access to so you can have peace of mind that it's just going to do that stuff inside of there. So perfect. Well, with that, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to start from the very beginning, how to get Claude desktop version really quick. All right. So we should see this is where, so to use Claude Cowork, so if you are just using Claude or any of the like ChatGPT or Google Gemini, typically you'll just log into their typical web version, which looks just like this. How it kind of looks familiar to you start a new chat, you start talking with it. Well, when we start using Cowork, you have to have the desktop client installed. So to grab that, you'll just go to Claude.com. Super easy. It'll automatically default to whatever operating system you're on. Since I'm on a Mac, it's just having me. But as you scroll down, you can see you have all your Windows device as well for that. So that'll be the first thing that you'll want to do is come download this. And then once it's downloaded, then we'll jump in. So let me pull up Claude desktop really quick. All right. So once you have it downloaded, it'll open up. It'll probably also first ask you to sign in. Usually it'll have single sign on through your Google, or if you have created a separate one, then you'll just sign in that way. But once you get signed in, then boom, here we go. We have all these things to look at. And again, it can kind of be scary. So again, we have all these three options up here of chat. It's one of those, all the new promotional stuff, the chat, Cowork, and code. So that's where you're going to control these top three as what we're going to be doing. And we'll kind of come back to them in a moment. But so I said to start off, there's some settings that we kind of want to start off, and it will really help your experience when you're using Claude going forward. So to get into those settings, we're going to come down to right here on the bottom, and when you click on it, you'll open up, you can see settings. All right. So from here, we'll see a bunch of different things. So you'll be able to put your name. Hey, you can even ask Claude to call you something different if you wish. You can type that in and have that. Um,
Okay, I
and
did
there's some.
not know that. So I'm going to be changing my name just to let y'all
Um, so enter the this section here. So this is where you can put instructions. So if you've ever had a time you're like, gosh, every time the outputs are so frustrating. I don't like the way it doesn't sound like me. It's giving me information I don't want, or it just so we kind of get frustrated with it and we have the back and forth with it of kind of like, no, I want it this way. Well, when we put the instructions in here, it will cut out a lot of that. So one of my big things, I think the fingerprint of AI is using M dashes. So you can see in mine, never use them ever, please. So, but you can create this whole set of instructions. Basically, what you're trying to do in here is kind of give it your identity, your role, your business, what you do, how it should talk to you, respond, any details you have. This is a great spot because it's going to memorize this, and then every time you chat with it, it remembers all those things. So I have a prompt that I'm going to give you guys in a little bit, and we'll come back to this point and how to generate this piece of it right here. So for the demo, I'm going to delete this right now because we're going to build that in a minute. All right, going down to the next section is capabilities. So this is a really powerful feature and functions to kind of enable. So one of the things is when you start to have more conversations with it, asking it more and more things, um, it can go back and reference those conversations you've had. So maybe you've asked it a question a couple times. Um, it will start to memorize that. So enabling that definitely helps because it'll reference past chats. Another thing is this secondary one here, generate memory. So if I tell it, hey, my birthday is February 6th, don't forget it. Remember to remind to wish me a happy birthday on that day. If this is enabled, it's going to memorize that. Right now it says no memory because I just enabled it. But and also this is a newer team account that I'm using, so that's kind of why also I'm enabling these live, and you can see them turned off by default as I'm really setting it up from the ground up. Um, Other things too, if you kind of scroll down here, so these connector discovery, so we're going to talk about that in a moment, but let's turn it on. And what that's going to do is allow it to find connectors, such as if you want to connect it to your Gmail or connect it to other tools like your Zoom, Notion, any other things like that. These other visual pieces, so as we start to see, when we start creating things here in a minute, it'll create things and it will pop open a window that you can visually see those things opening up. And so it's definitely great to just have these checked on by default. So we're going to make sure those are all on. All right, so that kind of does everything there in capabilities. And then we're going to come down to Cowork. And one thing, this is totally optional, but a pretty cool feature. So maybe as you start to get more comfortable with Claude and Cowork in general as well, they have this new tool. It's called Dispatch. And so what it allows you to do is from your phone, you can chat with it. So I could say maybe I'm out picking up my kids and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to generate a report. I can use Dispatch on my phone to send it that task or what I've assigned it to do, and it will go ahead and do it. So I don't have to be on my computer. It's a pretty neat way to interact with this. So turn that on if you wish. If not, it's no big deal. But again, that's more of an advanced feature. But while we're here, it's good to kind of take a peek. All right. So now we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to go back to when should I be using chat versus Cowork or code? Well, not code right off the list right now. Code is definitely going to be for way more advanced. If you're going to be coding or building something, that's the environment that you're going to live in. As you can start to see, you're going to have to start doing slash commands and some crazy stuff, but that's going to be for a whole different session, many sessions down the road. So we're going to just stick to these two, chat and Cowork. All right. So why would I use chat versus Cowork? So think of it as chat is when you want to ask the AI something, if you want to have a discussion or think through a complex topic, you kind of have an idea of like, I'm struggling with choosing a product for this client. Here are my options. What do you think is the best? Challenge me to find out what that looks like. Um, Use case would be like, help me rewrite this email so it sounds more like me. Um, help me come up with 10 social ideas for long-term care awareness month. Um, if you have a website and you want to improve the copy on your website, say, help me, improve the copy. That's where we're going to be kind of using it to brainstorm and come up with ideas and things that are just one and done kind of situations. So Cowork, when do we use Cowork? So that's going to be when we want to delegate multiple, like a multi-step task. So I want you to go into my Google Drive and I want you to fetch this file for this client. Then I want you to come back and draft an email to them and save it in my drafts. Then after that, I want you to send me a message in Slack that it's done to come back and review. So you can see very multiple steps. So almost if you were to tell an assistant, if you had one, here's what I need you to do. And so that's when we want to use it. Other places or times you could use it is, hey, my downloads folder is out of control. Can you please organize it for me? So giving it a task, something to do on your computer. Review my call notes that maybe you just had a call with a client. Review those calls, like my Zoom transcript. I want you to go in, pull the proposal that I've sent, and then draft a recap email to them. Or look through these documents that I've provided. Maybe I have three different insurance solutions, and I want you to create an interactive table that I can look at the pros and cons of each, hybrid or standard, traditional policy. Those are kind of things. That's where you'd plug into Cowork and have it do that heavy lifting. So same thing if you had an assistant, like here's something actionable. I want you to go and do it. And so what's really important and what we're going to start to build next is instructions. If we hire somebody, we don't just, say, hey, I need you to send an email, close the door, and walk out of the office. They're going to be like, well, who do you need me to send an email to? Or you asked me to generate a social media post. Well, on what topic? On which tone? Like, do you want colors and things like that? So that's where it's going to be really important that we give it instructions. And if we build this right up front, which we're going to do together, it's going to make your life so much easier. And it's going to seem complex at first, but I promise you, we're going to go really slow. I have all the files. Gretchen, if you want to, in the chat, I created a Google Drive folder that has all the prompts we're going to go over. And so we're going to interactive just live. We're going to go through setting this all up. So if you do have it all set up, like, Claude already, you can go, feel free to jump in, start working side by side with us. Or again, just come back and reference this later on when you have some time. So it'll feel like, oh, I just want it done for me. But this is the little bit of work we do up front that's going to pay, off so much and save us so much time later on down the road. So give me just a quick second and I am going to pull this. All right. So if you do jump in, here is what we're going to be working on next. So all the prompts that we're going to go over are right in this prompts right here. So remember I talked about a few minutes ago about the global instructions. So we're going to open this up and here's the prompt that everybody can just come in, copy and paste right into Claude. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because we've already done it and it kind of will take time, but what I've designed it to do, so since I've been using Claude for a while, the one that I showed you that I deleted in the beginning, it generated instantly because I've been chatting with it for so long, it knows me and it wrote all that instantly. But let's say this is your first time, or maybe you have been using it for a little bit. The cool thing is when we come back in here, the prompt is set up to have a conversation back and forth with you to pull out anything it doesn't know. So if we come back, so right here, this is one of those sessions we wouldn't be using Cowork. We're wanting to brainstorm. We're wanting to have a conversation with it. So we're going to put it in the chat. So I'm going to just paste that right in here. We're going to send it off. It's going to do some thinking. It's going to, start to, like, we've enabled memory. So because this is a new account, it's saying I don't have any prior conversation history. And so then it's going to start to see, let me start asking you questions of what I need. So now what's really cool about Claude is it starts to ask you these things. What's your primary role? What are you building or managing? Things like that. So you can select some of the pre um, ones that it kind of fills out, or you can type something entirely different. So I'm not going to go through this process because we're going to be building some other things, but I would really encourage you to take the time and go ahead and do that. Then at the very end, once it's all done, kind of like I showed you when we were back in the settings, back over here, these instructions, you'll take what it's created for you and you can just copy, paste, and put it right in there, and that's done. So all those preferences that you have, I don't like M dashes. I like when you challenge my thinking, um, or I like when you agree with me. It makes me feel better. You know, all those instructions will be in there. So every time you start to chat, it's being more tailored towards you. So that is a really great thing. So that's a super simple one. So I definitely would encourage you to go ahead and do that to get started. All right.
Real quick
So
here,
now we're going to get into,
Joe, if you don't
yeah.
mind, does anybody have any questions so far? Nope. All right,
All right.
go
Perfect.
forward.
And if you let's say you've been using ChatGPT, maybe you've been using a lot more than Claude, and you're like, oh, well, I've been using that if I answered it there. You can copy and paste this prompt right in there, and it'll still do the exact same thing. Or you've been using Google Gemini, anything. I'd also would advise you to whatever it puts out, all those tools, Gemini, ChatGPT, they have the same instructions in the settings, the global settings. So you can just copy and paste what it creates, put it right in there. So that those tools, if you do have a preference that you want to use those instead, that it'll have all that knowledge on you as well. So this is
So,
all
Joe, how do you like, do you switch back and forth from like ChatGPT, Claude, or do you use mostly Claude now?
I use mostly Claude the most. The being is because of the Cowork feature.
Hmm.
So the other ones have you can connect things as we start to talk about that in a moment when we jump to our next piece. But they're kind of feel more like the coding side, to where when you come over here, you have to really hard code things and connect what they call MCP servers, and you're starting to do a lot of stuff that's like, oh, that looks way too scary. So again, what I like to think is like Cowork has really bridged the gap into just like click and enable things super easy. Also, you do run risks when you're kind of in this wild west of using code and things like that, of things kind of going awry. And so the really neat thing with Cowork is they've basically put guardrails on everything to ensure safety and security and ease of use that anybody can jump in and comfortably and safely connect to these external tools and know that they're not going to go rogue because they put some safety parameters in place. So I'd
Okay.
say primarily I use Claude probably 90% of the time. But there's other things, like ChatGPT or Gemini. They have their own use cases.
Right.
Utilize them as well. But
Okay.
yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
using them. Um, all right. So let's get into the scary stuff. So the first thing and the nice thing is once we set it up, you guys are all set. So, like I talked about, we want Claude Cowork to have a safe place to work in. We don't, the right of the gate, it's going to ask where do you want me to work? Because I'm going to do things. I'm gonna if I create a file, where do you want me to save it? If you say, hey, I have a file, it's going to say, well, where is it? Because I don't have access to it. So this is a way that we create a safe space that it's not going to go looking through all your files and have all that. So we're going to come to your desktop. And if you're on Windows, you'll right click and we're going to add a new folder. So we're going to call this, oops, call it my Claude operating system. So we'll do that. And now, Now, what we do once you've created a folder, you then say, okay, well, where do you want me to work? So you're going to hit the drop down and you're just going to click. There's going to be, you can either create a new one, but we're just going to say choose a different folder. So we're going to come in there. It's going to open up your manager. And so you're going to say, where was that folder? So we named it right here, Claude OS. That's where I want it to live and only be inside there and not touch anything else. So we're going to say open, and then it's going to give you a little warning and says, hey, just so you know, if I'm in here, I can create folders. You're giving me full access to do whatever I want. Do you approve that? And so you can say always allow or allow. Always allow just lets it kind of do without asking any checks. So that's what I do. If you want it to just allow and then ask you every time, like, hey, I'm about to do X, Y, and Z. Do you approve? You can then just do allow, and it's going to ask you after each thing that it does. So I'm going to say always allow for this. And do whatever you feel most comfortable with. You can always go back and change these settings too. So if you're like, again, I want to start small, I want to see how it works, then do whatever you feel comfortable with on that. So, all right. So now we're going to kind of get, like I talked about, like how we set up the instructions um, earlier on in the settings. Now we're going to kind of build a space that has similar things where it has memories of the tasks you're working on. It's going to start to remember, what your tone of voice is. So I know one of the things is, when you start to like, oh, I haven't asked to write an email for, but it sounds terrible. It's so generic. It doesn't sound like me. Well, we're gonna solve that right now. So let me download. So we're gonna come back to our prompts. Hang on just a moment. So there's a few files in here that we're gonna download to get started. So I have it right here, Claude OS files. You're gonna come right in here, and I'm going to kick it off, then we'll come back and we'll kind of talk about these more in detail once they get Claude going so we don't sit for 20, 30 seconds while it's starting to build all this together. So first things first. So the Claude Markdown file, what this does, basically it's giving it a set of instructions of, hey, here's how I want this to work. Here's what I want you to do. And so it preloads and reads this every time you send a chat or you're having it do a task for you. This is kind of just an instruction set. So it's just text. Don't worry about what's on here. This is just generic right now, but we're going to have it modified, and Claude's going to do all this for us. So you're going to need to download all three of these. So what you're going to do, and you need to download it in a markdown format. So when you come up here to download the Claude markdown file, you're going to go File, go over to Download, and right over here, if you come all the way down to the bottom, it just has an MD file. That's what we want right there. That's basically the coding language that AI has, no matter what you use, if it's ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, this is just like its kind of native language in a way for it. So we're going to say download. Boom, you can see it's downloaded there. I'm going to get the other ones really quick too. Memory. So what this one is when you start to, with inside of Claude Code, because the memory it keeps in your chats, but this is going to keep memory if I tell it to memorize something inside of a project or something that I have it doing. So again, this is another thing, and it's just getting it added in there, which is really helpful. So again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to open it, File, Download, Markdown. Right, we got that one going. I'm going to close those. And then the last one we need is voice principles. We're going to get more into that in just a minute. So we'll look at this in more detail, but we're going to get all these files into where they need to go real quick. So again, same thing, File, Download, Markdown file. Perfect. So that's going to download. All right, now coming back to our folder that we created, what we're going to do is we're going to open it up, and the two files we just downloaded. Hang on really quick. We're just going to drag them in. So there's memory, and I have this one. I'm just going to make a quick edit. So I've downloaded this same one so many times. You can see it's version number 4, but we're going to change that. And then we're going to do one other thing, which will make a whole lot of sense as we talk through the next steps. So once we have this open, we're going to create one more folder inside. And we're going to name it, 00 _ resources. And the reason I have that 00 is because it keeps it when we add other folders later on, and when it starts to, as we are using Cowork more often, this is always going to stick at the top. So anytime we start adding resources in the future, which we'll see in a little bit, That's where these are going to live. So one of those things we have is our voice principles, like I talked about here. So we're going to drop that into that folder right there. All right. So now we have it all set up. So now we're going to come back to Cowork really quick. All right. Um, and now we need to give, so now that we have our whole file structure, our folders, everything all set up, now we're going to give Cowork tools so it can go out and start working for us. So where do we get those? How do we do them? There's so many, but it all will make sense and it's going to be very easy. So when we want to start giving it access to tools, like if I'm saying, hey, I want you to go check my email. Hey, what does my schedule look like tomorrow? Well, we need to connect that so that it can go, your assistant can go out and take a look at those things. So now we do that by going to customize. So when we click customize, it's going to open up another little window here. And inside of it, so when you want it to connect to something, it's just called connectors. So not too difficult there. We're not going to talk about skills. We're not going to talk about plugins or anything like that today. That'll be a different session. So again, let's jump into connectors. And then from here, it's going to automatically go into what you have connected. So if you're starting off fresh, you may not have anything in there, and that's okay. So you'll just come up here and you're going to hit the little plus. I want to add a connector. So when it does that, it's going to open up everything that Claude has built connections to in a safe and easy way. So to add one, it's super, super simple. You'll hover. So as you can see, like Gmail is going to be one that we're going to talk about. The Google Drive as well. Um, I haven't connected my Google Calendar yet, so we're going to walk through. Basically, they're all the exact same. So let's say you're going to start connecting these on your own. So you'll just go over and you're just going to click the plus. We're going to add this. And it's going to basically what it's going to do is say, hey, cool, which account do you want to, oops, I got to sign out of my my personal account really quick. You go back. All right. I'm going to say relaunch that real quick. And then it's going to ask me which one I want to connect with. I want to connect with my buddy one. Says yes. And then it goes, all right, great. We got that connected for you. Whoops. Okay. So then once you get it all set in there, it'll basically say, hey, Claude wants to connect to this. Are you sure you're okay with that? You can say, yes, I approve. It's all good. And then now you can see we now have, so we have our Gmail, our Google Calendar, our Drive. I've connected my Slack, and I also have Canva. So you can come in here, go into each one of those that you feel comfortable. I would say start small. You don't need to go in and add every single one of these because you're going to see, oh, cool. Yeah, Zoom, I use that. Notion, I use that. HubSpot, fantastic. Airtable, whoa, let me do that one as well. Just go small. Start, add a couple that you feel familiar, like comfortable with. I'd say the easiest one to start with is your Gmail, and your Google Drive and your calendar. Just giving it a couple tools to have access to, and then testing it, playing around with it, seeing what it's doing, and then being like, oh, okay, I feel comfortable with that. Now let me start adding some more. Let me start exploring some of these other options. So this is going to be kind of your hub where you're like, gosh, I wonder if there's a tool that I currently use that there's already a connection to. This is a great spot to come. There are so many connections to things and tools that you may already be using. You can search for them. You can go to what's popular. You can use these drop downs. Of course, the Google Suite stuff is really the most popular. Um, you can go to like what's trending. So there's lots of different ways. The Zoom one is really cool. We'll talk about that later on. So if you guys are having Zoom meetings with your clients, here's a great way you can connect it and have a conversation being like, hey, I just had a conversation or a meeting with the client and can you please, give me all the things we discussed about all the bullet points so that I can go through because now I need to go shop for a product for them. So that's one little small use case, but you can start to see on your own time, spend some time, go through here, take a look at some of this stuff because it's really neat. All right, so now coming back, now that we've connected some things, we're going to go back to Cowork now. All right, now we're going to do its first, kind of our first task. So, we had the voice principles. I talked about, I want it to, when I write an email, I want it to sound like me. I want it to, have the same tone of voice, how I sign off my emails, how I open my emails, things like that. Well, now we're going to open up a prompt and we're going to have it go through and rewrite all the voice principles, that file that we just added in there. It's going to now write the code and the instructions so that it starts to sound like you every single time. All right, so I'm going to come back here. We're going to come to the prompts section right here. And we're going to open up the voice principles. All right, so I've created two for you really quick. So the first one, since we've connected Gmail, it's going to go through, instructed it to search the last 30 emails and read them and study them and find your tone of voice, sentence cadence, word choices, phrases you repeat, structural habits, everything. We'll go more into detail on that. So since I connected it, and if you connected it, copy this prompt and then come back to Claude and we're gonna we're in Cowork, we're gonna just paste that right in there. We're going to send it off. It's going to take a minute, and we'll come back and we'll spend more time talking about the other one as well. So we've given it its first task. So we've asked Claude to go, hey, look at my emails, read through them all. I want you to go through and I want you to update my voice principle markdown so that way you know how I talk. When I say, hey, write me an email back to this client, it's going to sound just like me. So it's off doing that right now. It's going through, it's reading all my emails. Going to take a look at that. While that is going, I'm also, so if let's say you're like, you know what, I don't want to do this just yet. I don't feel comfortable connecting the Gmail. Or, I kind of wish my emails were a little bit better. I don't know if I wanted to take that from how I sound. I also created another one if you didn't create it. So basically it says, hey, I'm going to paste 5 samples of writing below. I want you to analyze them, pull basically the same thing out that we asked above. Its tone, its structure, its style, everything like that. And just so if you have 5, you're like, wow, I really wish I wrote like this person. I wish that's how I'd like. You can paste 5 emails below and it's going to go through, it's going to extract everything and then basically add that to its voice principles. And so now when it starts, when you ask it to do things for you, like, hey, I want you to draft, I got this email from a client. I don't know how to handle it. Can you draft something that's, in my tone and style, put it in my drafts inbox. Perfect. Send it off. It's going to go work. And then in your drafts, it'll have this email that's drafted in your tone and how you sound. And again, it'll be less of that, more editing. Like you ask it, hey, can you write this for me? You're like, oh, half of this is garbage. I feel like I spend more time fixing it than I did with the prompt, you know? So this is definitely going to fix all that time and save you guys so much more time. All right, I'm going to jump back to Claude, see if it's still working away. Okay, so here's one of those situations. It's going to say, hey, I'd like to go in there. Do you give me access to this? Yes, I do. So again, those safety guardrails that are in place. So it's going to ask you to confirm. So let's say I'm like, you know what? I always feel comfortable. I don't want you to keep asking me. If you come down to this little right down here, right now I have it set on, hey, stop and ask me. Every time before you go changing something, I want you to repeat, let me know. So you can change this right here. So if you in the future you start being happy with like, yes, it's doing great, go ahead and just act without asking because I trust you. So it's saying, here's what I have access to. Are you cool that I do this? Yes, I'm totally fine with you doing that. So again, it gives you another warning. Hey, just so you know, it is going to, make changes. But again, do what you feel comfortable with. All right, so it's going through. It's saying, letting us know, all right, I'm extracting, I'm looking through the resources, looking through your emails. I'm trying to, pull things out that sound just like you. And I'm going to rewrite and update that file in there for you. So some other things, when you look over here, It'll always have a little progress, so it's kind of, checking along of how things are going. Um, and then so it's the connectors right now. It's just using the Gmail, and so it's going back and forth. It's saying, "Hey, I'm looking for the voice principal file that you told me to update." So it's looking through, kind of talks you through all these steps that things are going through there. All right. As I just looked at the time, holy moly, I better hit this on fast forward a little bit here. So while this goes here really quick, what we're going to build next, once this goes through, we're going to now actually put something into place. We're going to build what's like a daily brief. So I mentioned that in the beginning. So if you come over back here, I'm going to open this up. So this is just, it's all fictional. It's not real. What it is in the morning, I can have it open up and send me a PDF to my inbox, or I can just have it generate. And basically, how I've set this up is it checks my calendar. What's on my calendar? What do I have going on for the day? It's going to look at my emails. It's going to say, hey, there's somebody that needs a reply. They asked you a question. You better respond to them quick. Here's a hot lead. I have it set up so that, hey, somebody that they are interested in, long-term care products. Here's another one that, let's say you sent out a message to a client. You're like, gosh, I haven't heard from him in 2 days. It'll flag that and say, hey, do you want to follow up with this person? Like right here, you sent it 5 days ago. This one is a referral prospect. Might be worth checking in. It's been 3 days ago. So it kind of gives you a snapshot of your day. So it may seem super basic, silly, but by building this, again, this is going to give you ideas of what's possible. And some may find this very useful as well. So while I have Claude still rolling over there, we're going to jump in and start building this. Yep, so it's still working. So that's okay. That's another great thing about Cowork is it can run multiple tasks at once. So we're going to open up a new one. So as this continues, we'll come back when it goes. So right at the top, we can just hit new task. Looks like, oh, but it finished right when it said. We'll still come back to it in a minute. So we're going to start a new task because we're going to build now this daily brief. So I created a prompt for us too. So come right in here, daily brief prompt. And these are the instructions. You can copy and paste. You can do it however you like. Also, if there's something, I would encourage you to read through this. This is just a general, generic one. Feel free to add or change anything. If you're like, hey, I'd love to see the weather at the top of it, then add that you want to have the weather. Or if maybe you're like, no, I don't need to know that I need to follow up on, an email that came in 5 days ago. Not important to me. If this is meant to just kind of give you examples, but take it and modify it however you wish. So we're going to copy this prompt to create our daily brief. We're going to come back. All right, so we got our new task. So we'll fire this one off and we'll come back to the writing principles in a minute. So again, we're going to make sure that we tell it to work in our Claude OS folder. Our Claude OS. Open that. Perfect. All right. We're going to send that off. All right. So we're going to let that bake in the oven there for a minute while it gets rolling. We're going to go back to our analyze our patterns. So the nice thing is now that voice principles markdown file is all customized to how I speak. Warm, friendly, and conversational. Treat the reader like a colleague you like working with, not an inbox. So it's created all these reading through and assessing how my writing style is. And so it's going to do the exact same for you. If you come back and in the voice principles, not the prompt, sorry. You can tell. See, it was very generic, right, clear, thoughtful, everything. And so as it's went through my emails and analyzed how I write, everything like that, it's given a lot of great detail. Um, never using corporate, never pushy. That's what it pulled out of my thing. So it's really great. I'd encourage you when you go through this again, double check it. If you're like, I do not like, I like M dashes. Like for me, I don't. So if you're like, I love them, I want to keep them, then delete that. Again, this is all yours to customize, but it gives you a really good jump start into things. So now when I start asking it, hey, can you draft me an email to a client or respond, help me come up with a response to this, it's going to sound remarkably so close to you in your tone. So there's one. Let's come back, take a look at the morning brief if it's got what it's got cooking there. All right, so it's going through, it's right now it's literally going through my emails, pulling up things that I need to respond to, if I have any scheduling conflicts, anything like that. Um, while that's going there. So can take just a little bit for that. Um, Gretchen, has there been any questions that maybe I've overlooked while I've been jumping away here?
Nope, nope. We're
Okay.
just we're just chatting in the
Okay.
chat. We're chatting in the chat. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, while that's still going, I'm like, oh my goodness, sorry this is taking so long.
No,
Um,
well, actually, let me address that because we're going to do another session next month, either the first or second Tuesday of next month. So there will be more to come.
there will, yes. So we're going to jump more into some of the more advanced things now that we've built this foundation piece. Um, while that is going, another piece I know I wanted to talk about, it's still going, was how do I create? I also, now that I have this folder, I wanted to start speaking and using my brand kits, my colors, all those things in there. So I have another prompt. This one you're going to want to customize. This was me, just kind of a quick little jot. So again, how we can run multiple tasks at once. We're going to start a new task with Cowork. Again, remember that we're still working in our Claude OS. So I want to create a brand kit. I'm going to use the buddy ones. So you don't want to copy this one because I'll have the buddy branding colors, everything like that. So what I did is I've added a new folder of Buddy INS logos and would like to make a brand kit. So future things I create use my branding. Below are my brand colors as well. Please make any updates to the MD files, which is the markdown files that include these updates as well. And then I just put my primary colors or additional colors like that. So if you have your color palette, your brand kit, your colors, things like that. Here's where you put them all down. If you don't know, like, oh, what's that hex color code? Like these codes right here, there's free online tools you can use that are like, match this color and it'll give you those color codes. Or you can sometimes just upload the logo and just say, I don't know the colors. Or put your web address in there to your website and say, please extract a brand kit. Here's my website, go out there and do it. It will literally go crawl your website and pull all the hex codes, all your fonts, everything like that out for you to do that. So so in my prompt, you might have noticed that I said, hey, I put a folder in there, the logos. So I'm going to swing it over here. So here's one that I created, and it just has our three logos in there. There's one that's all white, one that's color, and then the icon that we use. So I need to put that right in there. If I can find where I just dropped it.
Are you looking for your logos?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yes. I, it disappeared. I'm using both monitors, so it dropped over to my other one. Perfect. And I'm just going to grab that. I'm going to drop it, come back to Claude. All right, I'm going to send this off right here. So we're going to get that one working away. All right, we're going to come back to the morning brief. All right, so it has
That
pulled
looks very familiar.
it has pulled my stuff for today of what's been happening. So as you can see, you can if you click right here, it's opened this all up right there. And so it's generated this. And now there's some things that are not so good looking here, and that's okay. This is a perfect example of kind of having a conversation with it and going back and forth with it, saying, hey, I don't like this. The things look scrunched up. I don't like the red. I don't like the amber. Rather than gray, can you please highlight it in blue? What you're going to do, for that is you just come back and just tell it what you simply want. Um, Please adjust the spacing. It seems to be crowded and overlapping items.
I think the cool thing while you're doing that, Joe, for everybody to understand is, you always have the opportunity to ask it questions, and it will ask you questions. Joe and I were working on a project last week, and it kind of got to be funny because it kept saying, okay, I have one more question. Okay, I have one more question. And like an hour into it, it was a big project though. It was like this dialogue back and forth. It's very interesting how that works.
Yes, yeah, that's the one thing is if you get stuck or if there's something you're like, I don't like that. I think what's funny is I think it actually finished our brand kit because I sent it off before it finished, and so it had actually added all the colors to it.
Oh,
Like already with the colors because in my
cool.
example so that's one of the things is now that we it has that memory. um as I come back to the brand kit, it's saying, hey, I updated your Claude markdown file. I updated my memory so that as I start to create these any assets for you in the future, I'm going to use your brand colors. So I no longer need to say when I'm writing a prompt of, hey, can you create me a social media graphic that includes my brand kit? The colors are X, Y, and Z. Also, here's my logo. Now we've already told it. It has, again, we're training that assistant to know you don't have to, go back and say, why didn't you include my logo? Why didn't you use our brand colors? Because we've already gave them those instructions. And the nice thing is it's doing all these things in your folder automatically. I don't need to go in and manually adjust or change or update anything. Um, so again, like we were saying, coming back to this, I said, please adjust the spacing. It seems crowded, overlapping. Also, please include the local weather at the top. So it's going through. I don't know why it thinks I'm in Phoenix right now. I wish I was. But again, that comes back to the memory thing. So if you say, I'm based out of Florida, I'm based out of Oregon, it's going to then kind of pull those things. And that's okay. That's a simple thing we go back and fix and say, hey, I don't live in Phoenix. I live in Portland, Oregon. Um, and so I hit my limit for
No, well,
for the
this is a
moment.
good, it's a good thing to talk about, though.
Yes. So so using Claude, there are limits. And so we've put a ton of stuff through it right now. So and that's okay. So how do you check your limits? That's the thing of like, man, I still have this thing to work on. You can always upgrade your plan. There's always that option. You can,
But your limit only lasts for how long?
it depends. It's usually a set on a couple hours. So let's come
Right.
in. And so if we come in back to settings, go kind of right in here, there's this tab right here, usage. And it's going to tell you exactly how much you've used and when it's going to reset. So it's basically saying, hey, you got to wait another 4 hours and 24 minutes for this to reset. Resets to zero, and you can go from there.
And just FYI, everybody on this team who uses it has hit that limit. So it will happen, but it's not a catastrophe. You can either wait or you go to the next, level.
Yeah. And with doing the initial setup, we've had it do so much just right now. We've had it create a PDF. It was going through our emails. It was rewriting our brand voice. It was, updating all the markdown files. Now, the next time you use that, it doesn't need to know all that because we've already put it in simple instructions for it to follow going forward. So,
Joe, is this maybe a good stopping point for this session so that we've got 4 minutes. I want to
yeah.
make sure if people have time or if you want to give them any other instructions, before the next session.
Yeah, no, I think this was so again, what I'd encourage you to do is take some time, maybe go back and rewatch this, set it up, the basic, just copy and paste and just have this slow conversation. Because the foundational piece that we build right now, like I was saying, you're going to be able to start to add things to it. It's gonna require less work. Like how we did use a lot of our current usage right now, it's going to be just that upfront time. The
Yeah.
next time around, it's not going to need that much instruction and it won't use up as much of your credits to start with. Um, but yeah, I think that's definitely a good place to start. And there's so much more that you can explore of different connectors. So many other use cases. So I want you to think about like I was mentioning earlier, connect your Zoom, play around with that. Hey, pull the transcript. I just had a meeting with a client. I'm really struggling to pick between this product and this product. What do you suggest? Challenge me in my thinking of what's best for this client. There's a practical way to use it.
Hmm.
Um, or if there's anything else, anything repetitive that you do, like, oh my gosh, I draft the same email every single week or every single day, have a conversation, come over in a chat and start with that. Hey, help me brainstorm some ways that I can streamline this through using Claude Cowork and what are the connectors and tools I need, and just have a back and forth dialogue with it, and it will help get you to where you need to be. And it will, in some instances, it'll be pretty much same thing. Copy and paste this prompt into Cowork and it will do the work for you. Like it does all that for you. So have the conversation with it. If you're
Hmm.
not sure or if you're struggling or if something doesn't work, like, oh, I tried that, but it didn't work, let it know.
Hmm.
Also, take screenshots. If you're looking at something and you're like, maybe you're trying to fix something on your personal website for those of you that have that, and you're like, I'm in WordPress or whatever you use, this is broken. I'm frustrated. Take a screenshot of it, put it in there because it will read the screenshots. It'll see all those things. It'll give you step by step. Like nothing's off limits. Like you just have a conversation with it. So
Yep,
I know we covered a lot, went kind of fast, but
we did.
any
But you,
questions?
yeah, if anybody has any last minute questions, like I said, we'll be doing another session next month. But let me sort of just give you this closing sort of take. I'm a, 1,000 years old, and I've been in marketing. I remember I started in marketing when I pitched creating a website for our business because and my VP of marketing said, "Why would we need a website?" I also lived through social media. And okay, why do we need a social media presence? So this though, this feels a little different. It for me, it feels different. And I'm kind of on the other side now. It's like, okay, let's step back. Let's really think about how this can help our business before we spend a lot of time spinning our wheels. You have to learn, so you have to jump in, like Joe said and Jason said in the chat. But once you do, I think you'll find you'll start to identify areas where it can be super helpful for you. And Phyllis already uses. It's funny this came up today. Phyllis already uses sort of two kind of AI things, which is LEQ, right? And Alexa and Alecu were having a conversation today
about the
at
weather.
Phyllis's
Yeah.
house. So,
I'm like, this is too weird. I can't handle this. This is just so I just said we'll bring Claude in and they'll have a three-way.
Right.
so
But I have to
everybody,
tell you, well, it's 5 o'clock. We'll talk more later.
it's okay. All right. All right. Well, we are at the top of the hour. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. Listen to the recording. Take Joe's advice, just start and then hang out with us next month when we do this again.
One more pro tip. There was a lot of information, so you can listen to videos on 0.5 speed, and that is the way to learn if you need it slow, or you can speed it up if it's too much information. So take that with you too.
And in
All right.
our replay that we send out, also include the link to the drive so everybody has that you can go back and take a look at, and to the replay. So if you need to kind of go back step by step, if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out, Joe at Buddy INS. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. So
Awesome. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Bye.
thanks.